I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Steve, we have no public discussion. So I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda minutes dated January 24th.
I'll make the motion.
Carter,
I'll second.
second. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Handwritten claims.
Morning, Bill.
Looks like you can't see us there. Do you have anything for public or just the bylaws? Bill?
Nothing for public.
Okay. Just gonna double check.
I'll make a motion to approve the handwritten claim.
I have a motion by Carter to approve the handwritten claims. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Was that Josh?
Yes, that was me.
I have a motion and a second on the floor. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. I didn't see the line anywhere. Here's the wages.
Bill's hiding behind the pole back
Yeah, I
there.
believe that was that.
Yeah, I wondered where he disappeared to.
There's just no good place to sit with that pole.
There's,
We can sit up here at the table.
Yeah, you can come up here. If you wanna discuss with us, you can come up front, Sam.
Phil, it's up to you, EMS, we went through it before, is there anything you added or changed since last?
Todd changed some language. I mean, we had a brief conversation last week.
Yep.
And then on the last page, the signature block was changed to meet what the way Todd wanted that. The only other change at the meeting last week on Article 4, under the membership.
Yeah.
It was brought to the advisory council last week to remove the EMA position, have 3 at-large seats instead of 2 at-large seats. And then we did change it to a 4-year term versus a 6-year term. And I don't remember if that was, I think that was approved prior to.
I think that was changed prior to it coming last week.
So I think the only change from last week is the composition of the board from,
And the language that Todd had.
yeah.
So I would entertain a motion to approve.
I'd make a motion to approve.
I'll second.
Second by Carter, any discussion? Hearing none, do the roll call vote, please.
Matt,
Aye.
Wector,
Yes.
Stecker,
Yes.
Jerks,
Yes.
Sorry.
Yeah, my bad.
And this is what we're signing?
Yes, please.
We don't need to sign it.
Anything else, Bill?
No. I'm gonna stick around a little bit, I wanna listen to the part on the,
You wanna sign?
Trailer.
not just the trailer, but also on the GPS thing. Oh.
I'll let you copy.
Thank you.
Next thing on our agenda is discussion to purchase emergency response trailer using ARPA funds up to $55,000.
Bill, do you know if Chris is coming over? She's not.
You hit me.
Okay.
We would need a motion to approve.
I think or from, just based on our questions last week, do we know what the cost would be to
No,
repair that trailer?
My recommendation is that trailer currently is owned by Kossuth County.
Mm-hmm.
The new trailer needs to be owned by Kossuth County as well, not EMA.
Right.
Needs to be a county-owned trailer, some kind of agreement. I mean, this trailer's gonna be used countywide, so we just have to have a structure of how it's used. My proposal moving forward would be to approve up to 55,000 because, or up to the amount ARPA approved. Because the trailer's gonna be county-owned, I'm gonna have to come back to you guys anyway to get approval of purchasing. There is money in the EMA account to go towards this trailer, there is the money from the sale of the trailer, so we should be able to do it for way less than what the proposed amount is. You know, to buy a trailer, or replacement trailer. I believe something needs to be done because when Dave was here, his pickup was always in town. Now that he's not, it's a pain to try to get access to that truck in a timely fashion. So, that's my proposal, my recommendation, but it's up to you guys how you wanna proceed or not proceed. I'm not gonna put any time, I got enough stuff going on, I'm not gonna put any time into this if you guys are in favor of something, that moving forward.
Josh, you're on that board now.
We had a meeting last week.
That conversation actually did not come up, during that meeting. She did not have anything on budget or anything like that during that time, so, really don't have anything to add to that. But I wonder if the, resolution can be kind of rewritten to not be strictly for EMA, but be it for Kossuth County.
It's not for EMA. It can't be because it's ARPA funds. ARPA
Okay.
funds can't.
I was thinking when I read it that.
Well, they had it as EMA trailer last week.
It was on,
Okay,
it's on the
It says emergency
agenda.
response.
Right, right.
The resolution says emergency response.
oh, yep, no, I read that.
Yeah.
I know last week with the exciting EMA trailer caused a lot of confusion
Yeah,
in the county.
Yeah, I took call about that.
I did have a conversation with the Kossuth County EMS Association, which is the association that did the fundraising and stuff to buy the trailer originally. I did have a conversation with them at the last meeting about, you know, either repairing this trailer or replacing this trailer. And they said, do whatever you think is best and bring it back to them. So they're in favor with whatever we do. They know that something needs to be done. So we did have a conversation with that board.
But we don't know the cost to repair.
Now, when we called over to get quotes on it,
You can't get quotes on repair, because they don't know until they tear it apart.
we were basically just told, you know, it wasn't worth the effort of repairing it, you're better off sell it, so we didn't pursue that.
You don't know until you get digging into it.
Yeah,
how bad it is.
so who would technically be in charge of the trailer at that point, it'd just be under Kossuth County and then,
It'd just be part of our response assets, yeah.
okay, so you'd basically kind of share it with EMA.
Law enforcement would use it for a command post,
Yep.
EMA could use it for whatever, EMS, fire,
But it would just be stored in the EMA building.
yeah. The county,
I think this, the only other question from last week was, is there anything else that we're looking at as far as emergency services or services in the county in general? Being that we're using ARPA funds, is this where we should be putting money, or is there anything on the docket that also needs to be updated and replaced, and, or what else is in the plans, or is there anything
The
else?
only other thing that was on item would have been the fairgrounds, the grandstands. But we
Okay.
turned that down kind of,
Okay,
and they wanted money for the camping area,
sure.
but that was.
I would say an emergency response trailer would be more
A little bit more
important for the county to
Yeah.
appropriate
the
that.
nice thing with the trailers, it does benefit all the communities
Right.
at some point, or their departments at
Right.
some point.
And I do agree with the new trailer for the fact that more vehicles can pull it versus, you know, Chris is saying that hers is the only one that can pull it.
Especially means she doesn't live in the county.
So the,
Yeah.
a few years ago, they passed a rule in Iowa that whenever there's a structure fire, EMS has to respond with all fire departments. We have to do a rehab with the firemen that go in and out of the building. So we have to have a baseline set of vitals for those people, then we monitor their vitals as they're going out compared to their baseline vitals, so that's the idea behind the trailer, it gets used for that, and unfortunately, we don't use a lot for that, because by the time we get there, hook up to it and respond, it's too late.
Mm-hmm.
I have resolution 131-2301 on the table. Do I have a motion to approve or disapprove?
Tammy, with the stuff we already have on the books and some of the ones that have gone over, are there any concerns about?
Well, this was already previously here.
I
Chris had
know.
asked for 48,000, so that was already part of what we already had on hold. It will just be the difference between the 55 and the 48. And then we're looking at 27,000 that we still have in the pot, so that if we have overages and extra shipping and that kind of stuff. So we're in the probably mid-20s is what we have. That will be after that.
And say they go to buy a trailer and found one for 40,000 or 45,000, you know, then that extra 10 or 15 would just come back and be used through ARPA funds. Okay, and that's something else.
And it'll still come back here to be approved.
It have to be, because we're over the limit for
That's-
purchase approval.
Just wanted to clarify that again.
I think being that there's no other propositions for use, I think it's a good use. I'll make a motion to approve ARPA funds for emergency response trailer.
I have the motion, do I have a second for resolution 01-31-2301?
Now, does the sale of the other trailer have to be part of that, or no?
No, this is just allocating
This-
ARPA funds for the use of the trailer.
This would be for the resolution, but at the end of the day, the sale of that trailer should be effective total cost. So it does, but it
It
doesn't.
doesn't go into ARPA funds.
Sure,
It goes
yeah,
back to
yeah.
the general funds.
Yeah,
Okay,
do we need to make a motion for the sale of that trailer too, or no?
We don't have to yet, because we haven't got that new one bought, and then
Sure.
at that time, we'll make the
Right.
motions.
Okay.
Yep, it'll come before you again.
Okay. I'll second.
Second by Josh. Any more discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote please.
Nath,
yes.
Wactor,
Yes.
Stecker,
Yes.
Jerks.
Yes. Thank you, Phil.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
I'm gonna stick around a little bit for that GPS thing.
Morning, Dan.
Good morning, good morning.
You're in the hot seat.
I'm in the hot seat. Well, it's certainly cold enough out. I could use a little heat.
I think we all could.
You betcha. Jim regretted not being able to make it in, so he couldn't sign the letter.
Okay.
This is a letter from my commissioners, reference the agenda item from, asking the board permission to see if we can increase our commission from 3 to 5.
Action one.
Some of the highlights that she cited there were basically the, additional costs. The commission feels that the benefits outweigh the cost by having additional 2 folks there. We've ran into situations before where we didn't have a quorum, so we couldn't legitimately do a meeting because one is sick and maybe one on vacation. So that's part of it. Another synopsis within her letter, she talks about, we have the 3 commissioners that represent the Air Force. We would like to get some diversity in getting someone from the Army, the Navy, the Marine Corps, some other branches. And then, of course, the other thing is to posture the department for future success by getting 2 additional commissioners in there, new ideas, and long-term being able to maintain the continuity of the department with veteran affairs and veteran-centric issues. I sent to you via email kind of a cost analysis on that, and basically the highlights, if approved, we would be talking about for the meetings portion, an increase of $900 annually, and that's based upon the $37.50 per month for meeting with the commissioners. And then the mileage, I figured that based on a round trip of 38 miles, i.e. Bancroft, that's just what I went with, but like if we were to get Sway City, perhaps maybe even Titanca area, Lakota, that could vary a wee bit. That total figure would be another $1,021, or an increase of $564 annually. So altogether, with just 2 additional commissioners, paying for the additional monthly meetings and their projected mileage, looking at about $1,465 total-ish. This would not include any additional monthly meetings that we might get together on, for example, like budget planning, questions of that nature. And of course, the schooling aspect, which I get the state funds to cover that. But it would really be helpful. I know the commissioners would really appreciate it. And subject to your thoughts or questions, that's really about what I have at this point. It does vary throughout other sister counties. Some have 5, some have 3. My personal thought on it is, you know, if we can get better representation with additional 2 commissioners to represent our veterans in the county, that's gonna be better for the department. And that's really all I had, folks, for your consideration today.
When we were down at ISAC, and they talked about that quite a bit, and trying to move commissions to being 5-member commissions, so, yeah, I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, with the issue of quorum, I mean, 3 is just a challenge in general.
It is a challenge. The only thing that isn't reflected in there, pending or subject to your approval, is if it were to be approved, there'd be some advertising costs in there to put out the announcements, and then of course, that whole selection piece, which I didn't figure in. It's marginal, but I didn't add those costs in.
Who determines who's gonna be on the board? You or the board?
No, that is strictly up to the commissioners. So if approved, I would go ahead and do the public announcements and put it in the paper and collect the applications. I would provide all of those to the commission. They would then make that selection, set up a time for an interview, and then make the recommendation as to who they would like to have appointed by the board just know that if it were to be approved and we select 2 people, they cannot be consecutive terms. One would have to be 2 years, the other one would have to be 3, and that's in accordance with the code. And that's to stagger that,
2
so,
and 3 or 2 and 4?
presently, the way the code's written, 2 and 3.
Okay.
That could change because the code's under revision, and I'm not sure exactly how they're addressing some of that at this point.
Gotcha.
But, that purpose to stagger that would be so if the tenure's up for one of the commissioners, you know, it doesn't affect maybe the other one or the other 3. So that's for your consideration as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, Carter already hit it, but it was discussed, I said a lot, I think it's a good idea, I'd make a motion to approve increasing from 3 to 5.
Need a second?
I'll second.
Second by Wactor. Any discussion? Yeah, first, right now you don't have it in your budget.
Well, I can adjust that because we're meeting this afternoon, and I can certainly do that.
This is not something a supervisor needs to sit on, it's 2 other veterans in the county, or whoever.
Whatever, as the code calls for, preferred, they have, commissioners have to be a veteran, yes.
Yep.
Any more discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you very much, gentlemen, appreciate it.
Thanks, Dan.
Take care.
Cell phone reimbursement, I didn't know what that.
You actually did it last December, you said after the first of the year to put it on the agenda to talk about equality. As some departments were getting fully refunded and some were only getting partial, so we wanted to talk about it again.
Again,
What is the current state?
it's all over the board.
Okay.
Yeah, there's not really a policy for the county as a whole, I think Doug can maybe speak to this, but I think his are $15 a month
Yeah, Doug is,
reimbursement.
you get 15 back. Does that include the foreman or they got phones?
3 phones in our office.
Phil, where are you at?
For cell phone,
Yeah,
I have a county one because I was told I couldn't have county stuff on my personal phone.
yeah, so who?
So I have 2.
So what's the cost of it, do you know?
To me, the county one's 0.
No,
I wanna
the
say,
cost of the county.
Oh, 40 some dollars.
I wanna say it's mid-40s, 45 ballpark.
Yeah, my Verizon bill runs like $42 or $3 a month.
Yeah, cause we get the phones for free, but they're generation old for government, price that way, so we pay for the service, but the phone doesn't cost anything.
At the sheriff's office, what's her name?
Bailey.
Yeah, Bailey, her phone is,
Well, it was like $100 a month,
Right.
and now it's down to 45.
it is.
Yeah, the last claim it was down to 45.
Todd, what do you?
I don't, have a county phone, I have my own personal phone I don't get reimbursed for. But I do have 2 in my office now, I had 3, but now I only have 2. How I work it is, the county just pays the service, any additional fees, as far as phone expense, whatever, then the, employee pays the county for that. So it's just the service.
Do you know what those dollars come up to off the top of your head?
Not off the top of my head. I apologize, I assume it's probably pretty similar to what, ours is US Cellular, so.
Well, I
And
guess,
I mean, just for my 2 cents, I think it's probably a good policy to talk about, because, there's so many different ways of handling it, it's been that way for quite some time, so.
Yeah.
I guess I'm up here just to find out where we're going from here.
I think we should cap it, with what our expense would be for a county phone, for a county phone. I mean, I can perfectly understand people who don't wanna carry two, and I wouldn't wanna carry two, but the taxpayers shouldn't be paying more than what an entire phone plan costs us, so. And that's kinda what I said to Roger Fisher when he was in here, and I think that's why that got changed, but.
I was told on my personal phone that I couldn't have the county email on my personal phone, because if there was ever anything that came up, my personal phone would be confiscated. Is why they told me to have two phones.
They can anyhow.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they can anyhow, but
Maybe.
I don't know about that.
that came from Derek, so if you want further details, you're not gonna talk to Derek.
I mean, your county, Todd can maybe speak on this, but your county emails on personal phone would still be open records in that regard, just like they
Yeah,
normally would, so, but I don't know. Yes, I don't know why they need to confiscate your phone to get county emails.
well, it depends on what what the charge is, you know, or what the issue is, but, I mean, the county email is where the open records would be. You know, any other personal things that you have on your phone would not be something that would be reachable by the chapter 22, request for open records.
Yeah,
And it's just,
I also use mine for ME, so those photos that I take are on my phone and then taken off, so.
but if it were, yeah, I mean, the difference between a county phone and a personal phone, you know, the county phone is going to be subject to chapter 22. But obviously you've got protection for the ME side of things, and that they don't have, that's confidential record.
yep.
So at this time, do you wanna make a motion or a decision, or you wanna do some more research in other departments? I know Don's got two phones, there's quite a few people who got two phones, I have no idea what they're doing.
Are we just discussing county-owned phones, or people have their personal phones but want the reimbursement?
It's both.
Both.
Yeah, it's both. I don't know, I think it's a good policy to have and clear up some of the confusion on it, like it's been said, there's people doing it a lot of different ways, and I think we should set guidelines in that regard.
At the present time, is there anybody that's abusing it, I guess is my question.
I don't know if that's as big of an impact on whether we make a policy or not. I think it would lay the foundation for everyone to follow and not have questions in the future as well.
We can have policies for policies, but if there's nobody abusing it, then why make the policy, I guess is my point.
Have there been complaints from
No.
departments on how the policy is?
Well, like I said, we did have one that was
That was
close
big.
to 100, so,
Right.
I mean,
The only one I ever seen on the bill was Bailey's, that was high price.
yeah,
Who is in charge of cell phones?
Well,
Yeah.
your
Department
department
head,
head.
okay.
Should you maybe, just my suggestion, maybe approach a discussion, and determination, not necessarily today, because I think it would take a little bit more, thought behind it, but, maybe start with who should have phones, or who should have, you know, the service provided. You know,
Yeah, we got a department head
I think
meeting.
some of that's outlined in the handbook. as far as who can have phones or who should have
Okay.
phones.
But we have a department head meeting, and when they're all sitting there, I think it'd be a good time just to ask them what their cell phone policy is in their department.
And maybe
so that
that's a
we
good
know.
place to start. I mean, I think it's probably, I guess I haven't looked at the handbook. Doug, what do you recall what the handbook says?
I don't recall it. I mean, it addresses the use of
The use of it.
personal electronic communication. You know, that it's supposed to be work-related and not
Right.
abused and.
But I don't think it
says-
addresses who should
Yeah.
have one. You know, and maybe that's the start.
Yeah, why don't we bring that up at the department head meeting, and then we can bring information back to the board, because I don't know.
And, you know, it's difficult for any one of us to know what everyone's doing in their department, so.
So, set this back, let the record show we acknowledge it, we'll put it on the agenda again when we have more information.
You guys good with just taking it to the department head meeting?
Yeah, that's fine. I was just trying to see if there was anything in here, but I don't, oh, here we go, let's see.
There's cell phone use in there, but not dollars.
Right.
Yeah, there's,
It's more outlining use of personal phone.
Yeah, there's,
Yeah.
Next thing on the agenda is the policy for the $5,000 spending limit without board approval. It was brought up with, issue that Doug had in the road department, and whether it applies to everything in the road department or not. So I'm up for discussion.
I think it should apply for everything that's planned out. There was discussion about emergency repairs or whatever. There's requests that we meet every single day of the week. But I think that if there is emergency things that come up, I think we could have that be something that the chair and vice chair could make a joint decision on as the executive committee. On other boards I'm on, the executive committee is empowered to handle certain matters that need a more timely response outside of, normal business in that regard. So I guess my recommendation would be that the chair and vice chair jointly would make a approval on anything that's emergency in that regard.
what you're saying is Doug contact yourself and Roger,
And
If he
two
has-
of us,
if he has something that's over 5,000, is that what you're saying?
yeah,
For repair wise,
For
like
repair wise.
if it's something that's in the middle of the week and, you know, let's say he has a truck go down, he has to, you know, replace something that's gonna cost over $5,000, it's just a phone call, you know, not actually meeting in the boardroom.
Yeah, 'cause
That's
you
what he's saying.
you wouldn't have to have a formal meeting for two members,
But then if it,
just get a
if
quick
it's
heads up.
something that's been planned or something that could be considered planned, you know, if it's not an immediate need that, you know, it can wait for a week or two, it should be brought before the board
Yep,
for
that's,
approval.
that's accurate.
I mean, I guess,
We've never in the past ever had the board for the road department purchase it, because he has a budget that's paid by, quite a bit of it by gas tax dollars. There's always been exceptions made on that.
is there some exceptions that we could have in writing for Doug to be fair to him too, you know, as well as keep things accountable, you know, in both ways, it just,
That was my idea with having the chair and vice chair approve it, because you still have, some board oversight, but also not have to have a board meeting every single day of the week.
What has ever been purchased above $5,000 for the road department that never should have been purchased?
Well, I think that's a different, I think that's a different discussion, but yeah.
Yeah, that's not,
But
that's not the point of,
I guess Doug, how often, is it weekly that you have an expense repair over $5,000? As far as, just where it comes up in the middle of the week?
We have a motor grader right now that is down, the engine is sitting outside of it, it's got a cam that's being replaced, the engine's being put back together. I believe that bill will be $5,000. I didn't ask for an estimate, we need to get the
Right.
equipment running.
What do you think of the current policy?
Would you
your
please
perspective.
read it to me?
There's not a policy.
Oh, there isn't a policy.
It's actually just the recommendation they vote on.
Okay.
It's just a motion.
It's not a policy.
So in writing, all it is just an agreement between the engineer and the board, and it's not necessarily
it's all department heads.
oh yeah, it's not all department, I'm sorry, all department heads.
And elected officials.
And you have an agreement, not necessarily a policy that this is how it has to be.
It's always been called a policy, but it's not a formal
Okay.
document.
Are there any other department heads that,
Well, originally, my idea was that we had somebody that bought a printer that was expensive and didn't run it through the board and they should.
That
That
was,
was the reason why we limited it to 5,000.
oh, this was in place before that.
Yeah, well,
That was an issue that came up, but this wasn't placed before that.
if you're gonna tie Doug's hands with having to get hold of people to repair things, there's consequences.
Like what?
They're not gonna get done.
I don't think a phone call's that hard.
I don't carry my phone with me when I'm outside.
I don't carry my phone on me 24/7 either, but
There's decisions that have to be made on repairing stuff. I don't think it's fair. What, you're punishing the road department.
what do you think is fair, Roger?
Well, anything.
I mean,
that's-
being that you put the item on the agenda.
If, what is it gonna do? If you got a maintainer to this book, needs a camshaft.
Right.
Are we not gonna fix it?
Right.
I mean, it kind of comes to that point. If we have a truck down, are we not gonna fix it?
Right.
So,
That's what I'm
the
saying, is there
$5,000
exceptions that we can put
Yeah.
in the agreement that for necessary maintenance or repairs and that kind of stuff, to where that he doesn't have to come to the board the week after, or 2 weeks after, or whenever we do with the claims, to have that approved.
Right.
I can see why that would be
I would say we could have a policy written that in the times of urgent repairs, say midweek, you got a machine that goes down that you need repaired, that doesn't require the board approval, but bring it to the board that next meeting to inform us that this is a payment that is coming out. Now, if it's stuff that is planned, something that you've talked about doing,
that's a little different.
yeah, that's different. So, I mean, we could have a policy that says that any planned purchases that are gonna exceed $5,000 need to come before the board for approval, excluding urgent repairs that need to be made to bring equipment back up to use.
and when you were talking there, you brought up a point. The reason this was talked about last was a $15,000 repair on a truck. Now, I don't know how long it's at the shop. Roger, you'd said you'd seen it there for quite a while,
I think
and
there's more than one that was out there.
and that's very possible, whatever. But I did not know about that piece of equipment being repaired until it showed up on the claims.
And your point is,
We should be informed of what's going on before the bill arrives at our desk.
So you're not gonna approve a repair?
I'm not saying we're not gonna approve it, we already approved it, we already paid it. I'm saying we should be aware of it.
What's the purpose? Doug makes us aware of most repairs. I guess I'm going back to purpose. We have to function as a board, and he has to function and take care of the road department. That comes underneath his wheelhouse. Whether we like it or not, there's things that come up that are gonna be more than $5,000 that need to be taken care of right away. I'm gonna say if the door falls out of the shed and he needs to have a new door put in, it's more than $5,000.
Yeah, so get it repaired and then that next meeting come to us and say, hey, there was a repair that needed to happen, it's gonna be over $5,000, just so that way when it comes to claim time, we're not going, what is this charge for? You know, we didn't know about this until the claims come out. You know, that's what we're trying to say is we're not looking to have to approve every repair that he needs done, but we don't wanna have a surprise come Tuesday morning with a $15,000 bill. You know,
Or 30 or 50
Yeah.
or whatever.
yeah, it's just a little, you know, heads up on what's gonna be coming. Kind of
So,
thing, instead of just the surprise.
And that's why I made the suggestion about the executive committee, so to speak, because that's how urgent matters are handled on pretty much every other board I'm on.
Yeah, but I don't know of any county engineer that has those restrictions.
Do we know how other counties
Yeah,
handle their,
yeah, kind of
that
how Winnebago
situation?
does it. They don't have any restrictions, it's.
I mean, we gotta find a happy medium where Doug's hands are not tied to the point where he can't function properly as the road department head, but also, I see where, yes, it would be nice if we got a $25,000 bill to be aware of that. And it doesn't, and the bill doesn't come in the same day either.
No.
Exactly, there's a time process there.
So what is the best mode of action to bridge
But I
that?
hear you saying if Doug comes in here every week, if he would just say, hey, next week you're gonna have a $15,000 repair bill on a truck or we're
That's
gonna
kind of
do
what I
this
was
or that.
hearing too.
Is that enough? Cause I don't wanna make a policy, cause if policies are written in stone and then there's always something wrong with them.
I think if
But I
we
would
make,
say for the power washer, that was very obviously a planned expense that took some sort of time and forethought, and that should have came to the boardroom for prior approval. And it did not, that was also over 5,000.
That's your opinion.
That's my opinion based on the policy that's been passed unanimously the entire time I've been on the board.
It's not a policy, it's a recommendation.
It says policy.
yes, and in the future, those like projects should come before the board. I mean, that was not an emergency purchase, but we're talking about how do we, that's almost a different subject too.
Well, we have to handle both situations within the same item.
Right, so it's either we raise the spending limit, or
Well,
have the department head bring something to the board prior to the expense coming in. That's how I see it. I don't know, am I wrong in thinking that?
not every department's the same.
I know they're not.
That's the problem. Roger Fisher, he has repairs on his pickups when they hit deers and everything else, and they don't come before the board.
So by doing this to the engineers department and not to the sheriff, it needs to be a universal policy
I don't know
across
how
all
many-
department heads.
I don't
If
know how
we're
many
gonna go that
times
route.
$5,000 repairs for deer.
No, but that's not to say that there's never going to be a repair expense from the sheriff department or.
It should be fair across the board. Either way.
It should be, yep.
I think, the idea should be, what I stated earlier, that we have a written policy that says if there is anything that's planned or that could have been planned and is not urgent, should be brought before the board. If it is an urgent repair for machinery that needs to be repaired and, brought back into use, then he should be able to go ahead and do that. But notify us on that very next meeting that there was a repair that cost over $5,000, so we're not surprised when we get the claims.
So is that your recommendation? Is that your motion, the recommendation, or how do you wanna make it?
I'll make that as a motion.
Okay, I have a motion on the floor.
Do you want an actual policy signed?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And this isn't directed just at the engineers department or the sheriff's department, because obviously there's other departments that could easily have a repair that goes over $5,000.
People will load it up in that car, it's over $5,000.
Yeah.
It always should have applied to everyone, and I would second that motion, whenever you get it written down there.
Does that seem fair, Doug?
I guess I'll wait to see what the policy reads. I'm assuming that somebody is going to write a policy.
Yeah,
I mean, you guys approve a budget, don't you?
yes.
And if people work within their budget, is it satisfactory?
That's kind of a hard question to answer because,
If a department head works within their budget, it's not, or it is satisfactory. One of the two, it's not a difficult situation.
this isn't really a question about budget, this is a question about the policy.
Why do you need a policy if you work within a budget? That's what I'm saying.
Doug, in the years I've been on the board, it's always been said that all your stuff's approved through the budget. Yet, in our budget pages that I tried to look through quickly last night, new equipment is one topic that obviously comes up in the boardroom. I didn't see a list of the equipment that you were planning to buy now or anytime in the future. So, if it's approved in the budget, we don't have specifics of that. It's a general direction, not a set in stone guarantee.
I think,
I guess we can talk about it today when I do come and visit with the board about the budget, and, I mean, I have an idea of what equipment needs to be replaced. However, we've had situations where trucks have rolled, trucks have been in collisions, they are totaled. All of a sudden, my budget for new equipment changes. The priority now is to get a truck instead of getting a motor grader or instead of getting a loader. It isn't a 5-year program with construction projects. Even a bridge may fail. And we have to go and we might have to change our program for construction. If you guys wanna have a policy, I guess we'll look at a policy. But again, if I work within the budget, I will attempt to do a better job of letting you guys know what's going on. But if I forget, please accept my apology and my explanation. When you have $10 million budget, $12 million budget, when you are providing a service, I try to provide a service to the people and I try to do it in an efficient manner.
Roger, I call for question. We have a motion and second on the floor.
Any more discussion?
has there been a year where where the engineer's budget or any other department head's budget has gone over to the point where it was concerning?
There's multiple times we've done budget amendments to,
Well, I understand that, but, you know, that's voted on by the board, but. I just hesitate to make it a policy set in stone just for simply bringing it up in the boardroom the following week. I don't know, that's how I'm hearing the policy.
That's the motion.
Right, or the motion, I mean, I'm sorry, yeah.
well, part of it, the,
The main thing about it is the $5,000 spending limit, unplanned items. And the policy should be written to exclude those, you know, emergency repairs, things that need to happen to get trucks back on the road. That is an exclusion to that policy, that's not written in the policy that, you know, that he's limited to that. It's written in the policy that, you know, going to be written in the policy that he brings it to our attention when something like that does happen.
I see what you're saying, Josh, but
Yeah.
being that we don't have a policy, that it's a
Yeah.
recommendation, it wouldn't be an exclusion to a policy, it would be a policy in and of itself. You see what I'm saying?
but
Well,
every,
we're
but
working on-
every other department head has operated under the fact that this has been a policy for, I guess I would say there's been a couple issues we've had, but in those issues, we've referenced the fact that we've had this policy, even though it's only been a motion, it's always been referenced as that's their authority. So if we're going to have this as a motion in the first meeting of the year, you either need to have a policy or you don't have a policy. So my point with this would be, we've always considered that anything over 5,000 needs to come to the boardroom for approval. So in that regard, we should make it a formal policy if that's an issue, so that that is clarified to everyone.
And that's what-
Because that's the way everything's been operating. When,
You're gonna have, Phil there's gonna have, how many ambulances you gonna have in Kossuth County?
6,
6. You blow a motor, $5,000 uncovered either. You're gonna wait for board,
and we had that happen, I mean, we had.
No, Roger, you're getting,
you're gonna wait for board approval?
no, because that is considered an urgent repair. And that is my exclusion.
You have more ambulances, how urgent is it?
Does it take a piece of equipment off the road? Yes, then that would be considered urgent.
when he's gonna go buy a new ambulance, or when we upgrade, software for the courthouse, are we gonna go without software for our computers? No, but it comes to the board, it gets approved, and we go about our normal business. I don't see why it's that big of an issue. Everyone else, for the vast majority of situations, comes to the board for approval over $5,000.
Do a roll call vote.
I just, one more thing, are we jumping the gun by setting an exclusion to a policy we don't have in the motion? That's what I'm saying, like, can we even do that?
Yeah, because that would be included in the policy written as an exclusion. When you go through, you know, your handbook, do you think that all those policies are written in and then later on the exclusions are added? No, when you write a policy, you can include the exclusions along with the policy, so it's already there in place. You can make changes to it after that fact, but if you're gonna put a policy in, then he's gotta follow that policy immediately until we can add that exclusion. But if we put the policy in with that exclusion for the repairs, then he can go about business normal.
So for today's motion, it would be a direction on how to write the policy. We would still have to,
Approve the
But
policy.
there would be no
once it's-
policy in place.
we would have to actually approve it once it's written and drafted, but you would have direction on how to write it.
And this would not inhibit Doug's or Phil's or anybody else's ability to to just go ahead and make those necessary repairs to
No.
equipment or?
No, that, it should
From
not
what was
hinder.
discussed, that would be correct.
Okay. This is just directing our conversation to write a policy.
Who's gonna write the policy?
That's what my next question was. So is this something we're having?
Is it something that needs to be in a handbook, or is it something that
When you
needs
got
to?
policy, it has to be
It has to
written.
be in handbook.
Okay, so
Yeah.
then who do we
Should be
usually
in.
have write the policies for the handbook?
Usually contact other counties, to
Right,
find out what
yeah.
their
I
policies
don't,
are.
you guys are stepping outside
I
my
like,
scope.
go ahead, what's
You're
that?
stepping outside my scope,
Okay.
because I'm not even sure the whole,
I'd like to visit with other counties and get some more information on how we should probably go about it. Before we move into the next stage of discussion and writing a policy. That's my feeling on it.
So I have a motion and a second on the floor. Do a roll call vote.
Nath,
No.
Wactor,
Yes.
Stecker,
Yes,
Sharps,
No. Motion died.
so what would you be looking for from other counties?
Just how they go about, I know other counties with their engineer department and other departments function differently than we do. I'd like to discuss some things with them and just see what works well in other counties that are working well, and looking at the handbook and what we have. I just hesitate to make decisions before.
So how would you expect people to handle,
The motion failed. If you wanna bring it up again, we should put it on the agenda. We should actually follow Robert's Rules of Order.
well, how are department heads supposed to handle business now? Are they, that's fine, but is there a $5,000 policy or not? Because it's been,
It ain't a policy, it was a recommendation.
that's both answers to the same question.
No,
All
it's
that
the way it's been done.
all that failed was to
Right.
write an actual
Right.
policy, so.
This didn't take away the original,
No.
You
The
want to
original one's still in
Yeah,
place.
the original
Yeah.
is still.
And I would be open to bringing it up again.
After it dies, we aren't gonna discuss it more, we are gonna follow. Next thing on the agenda is relocating the owls. Kyle, you put that on the agenda?
Yeah, I guess Rod had said it in the boardroom here. The last, I don't know if it was 2 weeks ago or whatever, but others have come to me saying the county recording is very hard to hear board members. And, I mean, there's been multiple occasions where we've had issues with them being paired. If you go between the line, between them with your hands or papers or whatever, it interrupts the connection that way. And I think they should be relocated up to the board table for better, quality of the product of the video, is what I would say.
Then are you gonna pick up the people in the background talking?
No, but not as clearly as you would now, but anyone that's addressing the board, I feel should be actually coming up and addressing the board, you shouldn't be talking from the back row.
Did you talk to Derek yet for what he thought could be done to improve it?
Yeah. Do you want him in here now, or?
You're talking about moving where they are now?
those two owls, moving them up
Oh,
here
no,
to,
Derek's not here, that's right, he's
He's in Iowa City.
Des Moines or Ames or whatever, yeah.
well, we're talking moving those two owls up here, so that way that the recordings are a lot clearer and they can hear us.
And at the end of the day.
On the video, like when you live stream in? Or
When,
on Teams
well,
or-
for when you do, when
Like-
they post the recordings
Yeah,
and you go to YouTube and watch them,
yeah.
people are complaining that we're hard to hear up here because the owls are so far away from us. Now, if the owls are brought up here to the table, to our desk,
Microphones are here, aren't they?
Yeah.
Those
Well,
are
these
for,
are
no,
for-
those are separate,
Yeah,
those are
these
for
are for
the
the
audio recording, they're
recording.
not tied in with the owls.
Okay, okay.
So there's two sets of microphones, there's one for the phone here, and then there's
This
two
one
for-
is phone?
Yeah, those are phone, the other
Audio,
four
these two.
are for the audio recording
Okay.
on
The owls have built-in microphones
Okay.
themselves,
Yeah, yeah.
which is why, if they're so far away from us and then we're turning and talking to each other like this, the microphones are.
This one's picking us up though too?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
mine does better because it's closer, and that's kind of the point of moving the county ones up to the board.
You're saying if I turn and say something to Jack, it's hard to pick up?
Well,
over there.
mine would pick it up better than the county ones.
And they don't
because-
hear this one?
Because of the distance.
They don't hear, they just hear the ones out there?
Two separate videos.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so those two are paired together, this one is independent.
I see what you're saying. I guess, yeah, when I logged into Teams for the meeting at one time, I could only see up here, I couldn't see out there.
Right.
So that's two, I didn't realize there were two different
Yeah,
deals. Okay.
and the pairing between them gives the ability to get around the pole. Like, that's a shortcoming of mine, anything that's directly behind that pole you cannot see.
Correct.
Those two gives the ability to grab from either direction, but at the end of the day, the majority is ran off one, but I guess that's,
Can you set one owl on that side?
No, they have
They have
to
to
be,
be in direct line of sight.
Okay.
I think you have to be 8 foot,
Six.
6 to 8, I believe.
No, 6 is the max, can't be more than 6 foot apart.
Okay, well, yeah, they have to be direct line of sight, and then there's a distance requirement for them to be able to pair.
I mean, I guess for the public's sake, if you're watching a recording, people are more concerned about what we're learning about than what somebody's
yeah, cause they
visiting
can.
back and forth in the audience.
Well, I'll make a motion that we have the owls moved up to the board desk. And that we'll have Derek work on that.
And you'd still be able to see the room from corners.
The only downfall to it is if someone's in the back of the room and they're talking, you won't hear them as clearly, but they're not voted on by the public, unless it's another elected official, obviously, but they
A lot of
can
times they
come up and address the board from the middle table.
And if it doesn't work, we can change it.
So I have a motion on the floor to move the owls to the front desk. Second,
I'll second.
any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? Aye. Motion carried, 3-1. Discussion, GPS devices on county-owned equipment. The only county-owned equipment is the road department, correct?
Currently, the road department has GPS, and, this was discussed between some conversations I had with other supervisors down at ISAC as well, but I didn't put it on the agenda last week right away, but I did have a conversation with Phil about it, and he was supportive of it and said that they are currently using a application right now to try and track ambulances and stuff,
Should we have Phil?
so.
That was like 360 is what we use.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which isn't supporting what we're trying to do anymore.
So, I guess, yeah, in that, and one of my other points with this, I guess we made the decision to do GPS on the secondary road stuff, but, which is a majority of the vehicles and equipment in the county, And I just think it should be standard across everything. I don't think there should be stuff that's included or not included. I just think it should be countywide as a whole.
So would that include the assessor's vehicle?
Everything would be my recommendation,
Yeah,
so
if it's county
fair
owned.
so it's fair for
Yeah.
everybody. And it's not like this is trying to critique someone for driving 56 or 61, that's not the point of it by any means. It can actually be used as a defense if things are being done correctly. There's been complaints where a road grader hasn't been down my road in a week or whatever, and this gives us the ability to look up that data, find out if they were down there 2 days ago and a rain event came and then semis went down. Might not look like it was just maintained, but it can actually be used to verify that we're doing the right thing in situation. So it's,
Where does this information disseminate to then?
well, and that's a conversation I had with Doug. I had asked for, the way to access it and log in information and stuff, and he was hesitant to set up an account for board members unless it was directed by the board as a whole. So
Well, you would be correct in that,
why is that?
because it's a board decision. It's not just one person's decision that they wanna track something, will be up to the board.
Well, no, the board made the decision to track it. It's the information behind it and viewing it at this point as well. But I don't know if anyone has any questions or whatnot, but that's,
This is something that we would increase to, be used in the ambulances and potentially the sheriff vehicles,
The sheriff.
The
has
sheriff
already
should
had-
already have their own thing.
but they're not tied to.
sheriff already has, software for all their
Yeah,
stuff,
the
and,
back.
and that would be the one exclusion I would recommend because of their line of work and the fact that they already do have GPS and stuff
Yep.
in their vehicles that dispatch can see where they're at, so,
And then that's very confidential too.
yeah.
Yeah, that's, where a road grader is a little different than what the deputies up to, you know?
Right.
But,
Yeah, so that would, my recommendation would be to have and we could probably add it to the handbook, but to have GPS devices on all county-owned vehicles except the sheriff's office. And to also set up accounts for board members to be able to view the information.
So like on the ambulance, a lot of that stuff falls under HIPAA as far as privacy, and where we're going. My biggest use of GPS is trying to track my vehicles when they're off out of county on transfers in the middle of the night during snowstorms and that kind of stuff. But if we're running local 911 calls, we'd have to make sure that we're not violating any HIPAA rules to be allowing people to track those vehicles to
I would
Oh,
say that in my arena too. I mean, I don't, if you have a question, you can ask, but I'm not sure if I'm taking it to an individual's house. I mean, then it's,
Yeah, like,
I mean, it's marked, but
do you have a county vehicle, Donna?
Yeah.
You do, okay.
Why would you have a potential HIPAA violation on the location of a vehicle? That wouldn't have any patient data. You wouldn't know who's in there or anything.
you might not know, but I think the individuals.
You would know
question.
whose house it was at.
you'd know where it went.
Well, the call goes out over the radio, the
Yeah.
address that you're going to anyways, the
That's-
radio.
I'm not saying it is or isn't, it's just something we would have to
It would be
address.
something-
Yeah.
I think
Yeah,
we need to
release.
look into it.
Before a person outside of the particular field like Donna, before say, I come to Donna and say, hey, can I have your information to, so I can see if I want to, where she is at, I don't know if I'd be comfortable with that. Just from the standpoint of privacy, I see what you're saying,
I'm fine with having access if there's a concern.
If there's a concern, if
Right,
you wanna
right.
follow up to what the question is,
No,
but
we're
not
not talking
rationale.
like making this public access or anything.
Yeah.
where anybody can see it, it's, I mean, it's gonna be for limited eyes.
It's public access if you have it,
Why?
because you're the public.
No, we're
We're
the
elected
elected
officials.
officials.
I think it,
But I don't think your job description says to track every county vehicle.
No, but if we have questions, we should be able to have access.
I think you're overstepping your position as county supervisor by thinking that you could track every vehicle that the county owns.
well, as a supervisor, we oversee budgets and all departments of the county, within the county. So if we have a concern, we should be able to go to a department head and say, hey, here's my concern, can we look into this? And even do it together, you don't have to do it from
But that's
your living
different,
room,
that's different than what you're proposing to.
I didn't propose it,
That
Oh.
Kyle proposing.
but
I agree with you.
But we should, when in going to a department head, we shouldn't be denied access unless it's based on, violation of privacy or HIPAA or something. Of course, that would be an issue.
Right.
But being that we are kind of between the five of us, we are the employers in a way of Kossuth County, outside of the other elected officials. That we do have a right to be concerned if there is a concern that comes up. So, I agree with that.
So how would you describe that in a motion? That, that board members are able to view the information?
As long as it would not,
Well, then,
but I think that has to be looked into first.
you're gonna have to go through Doug anyhow, because it disseminates in his office.
All of the GPS, even for other counties, but we don't have any on other counties. So say we put GPS on the assessor's car, who,
She should be overseeing.
she has oversight over that.
Phil would be
You have to set up multiple
separate that
accounts.
way.
That would not all be in Doug's office. Okay,
Shouldn't.
right.
But then that might be a budget item I need to know before we set a budget too.
Because that would come as an expense to her department.
Yeah,
Yep,
Right.
it costs money.
How much is that, or do we know?
I don't know.
For the secondary road stuff, I wanna say it's about $1,500 a month, but I don't know exactly how many devices.
For
that
all of the
is.
vehicles?
That's for everything, yeah.
Is that accurate?
What's your definition of a vehicle would be one question I have. Yes, 15. I'll approach the board so everyone can hear me.
Thanks.
Yes, $1,500 a month is what our GPS bill is. But I do wonder what you are calling a vehicle. Because every piece of equipment that the Kossuth County Secondary Road Department has does not have GPS on it.
What does have GPS?
Motor graders, dump trucks, pickups, and mowers.
I guess maybe what I should ask is what does not?
Dozers, loaders, scrapers, mobile tractors. We have a lot of pieces of equipment that we do not track.
If it's 1,500 a month, how much does that break down to a vehicle?
I was curious, yeah.
I wanna,
I think it's 80 vehicles.
probably
About
15
80 on your account, about 20 bucks a vehicle.
a unit per month, probably.
What'd you
$15
say?
to $20 a unit per month?
but like for mine, having one vehicle, I'm sure it's gonna be a lot higher than a
Right.
breakdown of whatever, 80 vehicles into one application, or whatever it is.
Who do we purchase that through?
That's through
Verizon.
Verizon.
Through Verizon.
And I don't know if there is a big discount on units that way, I'm not sure. I think it's a per unit fee.
I have no idea.
Maybe before approving,
Look
into what that cost is and whether, I'm just throwing that out there. For their sake, and of course, we're talking budgets today, but
Why don't we, do a little more research on that and bring it back when we know more.
If we're talking $15 to $20 a month, that's not a big expense.
No. And we already have it on the majority of the units
Right.
in the county.
Does the maintenance have a vehicle too?
We've got department
Yeah,
heads
like-
sitting in here wasting their time, so I think we should better have a discussion on the county handler. Kyle, you put it on, what's your,
Well, I guess I'll withdraw my motion that wasn't for, but,
Well, he did have a motion.
we didn't have a second? Nope, so it's withdrawn.
I guess I kinda said last time, I didn't have a specific thing on the handbook. I thought it'd be good to go over and discuss for the two that are new, could highlight some things. There was quite a bit of discussion in the last year or so on, converting to PTO instead of vacation and sick leave. So if you guys have any thoughts on that, that was a big topic. Tammy had some notes in hers that I looked over a little bit last night.
Well, we set up a committee, a year ago?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, with Donna, Karen, me, Roger, to go through the handbook and update anything that wasn't in it, like the update to our meeting mileage and make any corrections, cause it hasn't been updated since 2017. So we have been working on that for a year, probably, at least.
Well, we started working on it, but I think it was kind of stalemated with PTO, because we didn't know which direction it was gonna go.
Right.
Yeah, so
Well,
I mean,
and the benefits vary from department to department somewhat, yeah, from the road department to the sheriff's. We haven't got them all the same yet,
Benefits in,
time off, or.
Vacation time, PTO.
vacation and
whatever.
and bereavement, yeah,
Yeah,
and I don't know.
bereavement, we haven't had that standardized yet.
yeah, so I mean, my point of putting it on the agenda was just to visit about it and kinda highlight a few things that way, but do we have any idea on when, like, is there plans to do a revision, or did it just stop at the PTO?
We're working on it, we're kind of revamping the committee, Donna and I talked about it a little bit, so that we have maybe more departments involved.
Yeah.
So we asked Melissa, since she does payroll, for her to be on it, so she can look at anything that might not be correct, and then we thought about having somebody from the sheriff's office, somebody from the county attorney's office. Am I missing anybody? And then maybe we started looking at it again, since PTO isn't going anywhere.
Is PTO gonna be revisited?
Well,
We-
that's up to the board, and that was.
We kinda, after all the turmoil out of one board meeting and everybody being upset with it, we decided not to, but I think that after that, we decided that, we'd have to do a better education with explaining PTO time. It's a lot simpler to administer. Everybody that's been under PTO time seems to like it, but there's people that were afraid they were losing something.
Yeah,
I think PTO could be revisited, but like Roger was saying, education, get the education to the employees and discuss with them, benefits of PTO over what's currently in place and then once that education's been brought forth and kind of get the opinions from people, we can revisit it on the board.
Well, I guess the problem is everybody wants to be a winner.
Right.
And you're gonna have winners and losers when you switch. I mean, that's just plain fact, and not everybody's going to have what they consider a win if you switch to PTO time.
Right.
That's hard for people.
Right, and some people just won't understand because they've, you know, they've worked here for several years
Right.
under the current system, and making a change, it's, you know, confusing and can be a little alarming to some people, but I think the education just needs to be brought to the employees and discussed with them before we can make an actual decision on it, but I would say we could revisit it.
I think there's departments that have comp time and there's departments where people don't accumulate comp time. So PTO would really favor somebody that doesn't accumulate comp time. People that have comp time felt that it wasn't necessary because we take off when we want to because we have comp hours. So we're gonna have to address that.
Who would not have comp time?
I don't think,
The deputies and stuff should probably have that.
no, they don't.
Anybody that would be an exempt employee.
I don't get comp time.
You don't have-
I just report my hours.
Yeah, but do your employees, they don't have comp time much, do they?
Well, very, very minimal.
Yeah. Nick, your employees don't generate a lot of comp time.
Not a lot,
No.
you know,
Yours don't either.
Occasionally, right, it's not a lot,
it's
but,
not a lot.
I mean, it's not like the deputies that
right,
accumulate a whole bunch of comp
Right,
time or the
yeah.
janitors, so that's where the PTO time kind of stalled out. Any suggestions? In the handbook, yeah, it should be, if you get somebody together and look at it, it'd be nice if we had everything the same, but it's not.
That's probably what was the stalemate. And keeping it simpler would be
Well,
a
then,
suggestion too, cause I don't know that, things are in there, but we don't always, I mean, and I'm not bringing up, but we have to look at it and then see how it fits also.
we have too much in it instead of not enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it makes it difficult because some of them are on 28-day rotation, some are on monthly. It makes it tough to get it. So it's the same for everyone.
It's gonna be hard to get it the same for everyone. You have the sheriff's department that works 24-hour shifts, you're gonna have EMS coming on that works 24-hour shifts.
Yeah, you
There's
got,
just too many variables, there's gonna be sections in there that's gonna pertain to different departments.
right,
There has to be.
yeah, you got the jailers that work 7 on, 7 off, and yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if we'll ever get it all uniform, but I think it would be good to get an updated version of it sometime here, even if we don't have PTO incorporated in there, I think it'd be good to get a revised copy.
And if we're gonna revise it, I think we should revisit the PTO and have that included, you know, in the
We can, but that's gonna be a longer conversation, it's
Right.
not gonna be a board meeting or two, so that gets into how long do you wait to get a revision of the handbook, I mean, do you wanna put it off another year or two?
No, but
Well, I don't know what you're gonna change a lot in the handbook unless you do change the PTO.
Tammy, is that
Well,
something that
There's several things.
on
Tammy had
the
notes on,
committee, would that be something that you guys would be able to discuss and getting education to the employees and stuff like that on the PTO? I mean, would that be,
Yeah, doing PTO is a lot of work, you know, it's a lot of time put into it, Doug and
Yeah.
Donna put in a lot of time, so I don't know, you mean getting information on what we've already come up with? Is that what you mean, or
getting information to the employees to kinda educate them on what it would mean for them?
Donna and Doug did most of that work, so that would be up to them of whether they're comfortable with that.
We also needed information from you on what your expectations were, the data and the skeleton of a policy, the draft, we talked about for months.
Yeah.
But then it's also the trickle down of how do you, not only educate employees, but how does it really go into play? How does payroll adjust? I mean, there's a lot of adjustment.
Yeah, so that's where that's a pretty big topic, so. I mean,
So what would you guys suggest, doing the revision of the handbook now and then going back and revisiting PTO, or?
I think you better look at the handbook and see what you can improve on it. I don't think there's a lot of revision.
Okay.
But PTO, that's gonna be a big hurdle.
Yeah, I kinda would like to see them separate in that regard, because otherwise you start having a lot of irons in the fire and then can't get anything accomplished, which is kind of where we stalemated
Yeah.
on it. The PTO didn't move forward, so then now all of a sudden we don't have revisions to the handbook and it's not updated, so.
Yeah.
I think it'd be good to
My-
get that current and then
Yeah.
come back to PTO.
I guess my thought process was if we were gonna do a revision, let's try to do it all at once, but yeah, if there's gonna be too much on the PTO, then let's just do the revision first and then do the PTO another time.
And that is how it started
Yeah,
because of PTO, but
Yeah.
yeah, and we can finish what we started with the handbook and then look at PTO again.
When you and Don are bored, why don't you look at the handbook?
Well, we have a committee,
Yeah.
so we can go forward with that, I guess, and finish what we started.
It's nothing that's gonna get done next week.
no, and I wouldn't expect it next week either, I just think it's good to get the ball rolling again.
Okay. We are up to approve the IA 15 detour agreement with the Iowa DOT.
Yes, last year, the Iowa Department of Transportation and the, DBE is, DME, I think is what the railroad is, Canadian Pacific. They asked for and received permission from the Board of Supervisors to use a detour project. They're planning on replacing railroad crossing on Highway 15 right to the west of Whittemore. There is a location map in your folder. They would be using 210th Street between the west city limits of Whittemore and Highway 15, and then also P10, which is a paved route from the north city limits of Whittemore to Highway 18 for a detour there. So they're asking really to renew this. What happens is, they think it's gonna take about a week to complete. They do have traffic counts, truck counts, and they do reimburse Kossuth County as well as the city of Whittemore for the trucks and cars that do end up using this route. I would recommend that the board would go ahead and approve this. You're welcome.
Do I have a motion to approve the agreement with Iowa DOT?
I'll make the motion.
That was Whacker?
No, that was
Oh,
Matt.
Carter. Sorry.
No, second. Since you already said my name, I mean.
Yep, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any discussion on it? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried unanimous.
Your signature right there, please. I gotta bump up here. Where I printed here.
Next up. Construction in the right of way.
There are no requests for construction in the road right of way.
Anything else?
Discussion points. Construction, the bridge at Irvington, we did open that up to traffic. We the contractor placed some impact barriers in front of the approach barrier rail. So if there would be a vehicle that loses control, it would be the right side. It is protected. We still have a 35 mph speed limit there. It's still under construction technically, but the road is open. This will allow people to use it. Guardrail still needs to be constructed, but we'll wait for weather to allow that construction. We still have an open position at the mechanic shop. I'm advertising cylinder pit, farmland. Those bids are due to my office at Friday at 4, and I'll open them up at the next board meeting. Equipment, all our mower tractors, we took those to Casey Nielsen. Number 616 had some oil leaks and fuel leaks, and they are taking care of those. 617, there was a fuel tank leak and a transmission filter housing major leak that they are repairing. And then 621, transmission D-range clutch packs were removed, so the transmission was taken all apart on that. Motor grader 148, the cam is out, and Ziegler is repairing that. And then we still have 3 motor graders, 6 truck chassis, and 2 semi-tractors that are on order that we have not purchased yet.
Did they give you any reason why they thought the cam went out, or just normal wear?
Well, they're one of the they call it a roller, but I call it a lifter. It started wearing on that cam and wore about 1/4 of an inch around that. And I don't know if it got soft. It wasn't hard, but that they said that was what caused that, where between the cam and that lifter. So.
It was a valve then?
No, there's
It's an injector lifter?
well, it's a roller, and it all operates. What they call a roller is a cylinder about 1 inch in diameter by about 3 inches high. And that there was something in there that between the cam and that piece, there was wear and it was causing noise, so. That is all I have for the road department. Zoning, I am getting a meeting organized with the Planning and Zoning Commission to have a hearing with that CO2 ordinance. I started visiting a little bit with them. I'm waiting for Tim Whipple to reply and 2 other commission members. And then we'll start advertising it again. I think it's going to be, I guess what I'm proposing is February 27th. We still need 2 members for Planning and Zoning Commission.
Did that guy ever get hold of you?
I guess I talked to Steve, but it was about a different situation. And it was nothing about that. I mean, it's the Board of Supervisors' responsibility to fill these positions.
Right.
In the Board of Adjustment, we need 1 person for that as well.
He just wanted to know the time requirements, how often you meet and. Or does it just
Does he want
depend?
to call me? It all depends.
Right.
They haven't met for
I told him to
a
talk to
couple of
you.
years, so he hasn't called me. To make a
Okay,
long story
okay.
short, I called him about a different
Okay.
situation and he didn't mention anything. So that's all that I have.
Nothing else, Doug? Want to take a 10-minute break?
Doug, for the John Deere tractors, are they holding up to your expectations, I guess, with these repairs that are necessary with the transmission and all that?
We would, if we had another employee in our mechanic shop, we'd probably be doing them ourselves. But since we do not have that employee and haven't had that employee for 2 years, that's one of the reasons this is happening. So yes, the John Deere tractors are meeting what I consider my expectations.
That was.
They're operating.
Question.
Anything else? Let's take a 10-minute break.